guys, so this is going to be about Charles the 10th. All right, I'm going to run through his history, his life, his biography as quickly as possible. You're watching iSEE109, and this is the subject of all of my material, 109, and how it's led me to discover new things about history, about historic figures, and about, recent history and history, and the present, right? All right, so here we go. Charles Philippe is his name. He was born in, October 9th, right? That's the 109 connection initially, right? 109, 1757. All right, Charles Philippe, born 1757. At 4 years old, he was baptized on October 19th, 1761. By the time he was 16 years old, he was married. That was in the year 1773, November 16th. All right. Through that marriage, he had 4 children, and his wife wasn't the fairest, or by fair, I mean the prettiest. And so he was, had a lot of misses on the side, a lot of, what do they call them? Side chicks. So they also said many lovers. He was an adulterer, right? So France's story and the history, from what I gathered from watching a couple other YouTube videos just now, is wicked. It's wild, okay? Chopping off heads and whatnot, rioting in the streets, rioting and looting. Like everything that we see in today's society, from what I watched within the last 30 minutes of watching some other YouTube videos, everything that happened has happened in America pretty much pales in comparison to what was going on in France. Man, chopping off heads, the guillotine, that part. All right. So he had already been exiled. I'm moving quickly through his lifetime, right? But he had already been exiled from France before the storming of the Bastille, according to the YouTube video I just watched, which I'll leave some links and everything down below so you can watch those as well. But the storming of the Bastille was basically the French storming prisons to release 7 captors, right? So that's what was going on in France. So before the storming of the Bastille, Charles Philippe was already exiled, right, from France, and he was living in Great Britain. Okay, so that's where he was. Now Napoleon Bonaparte was in power at that time. I mean, there's a whole bunch of history. Of course, I'm glossing over. I'm just making this video very short because it's only supposed to be about Charles the 10th. Anyhow, Napoleon Bonaparte was in power, and I wrote my notes here. It says lived in Great Britain until the fall of Napoleon Bonaparte. So Napoleon is out, and Charles Philippe returns to his native France, right? So let's see. Napoleon Bonaparte was out in 1824. All right. His brother was then King Louis the 18th, and his brother died in 1824. So let's see. Napoleon Bonaparte was out. Charles Philippe returned to France. His brother was the king, or became king, after Napoleon. But by 1824, his brother is dead, right? So they had this thing called the White Terror during his... all right, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right. So 1824, his brother dies. 1 year later, on May 29th, 1825, Charles is there. The coronation is coronated. He is he's brought into the monarchy. He's now the king. All right, now check this. This is something that I remember, but my notes don't say it. They said that his brother was a conciliatory king. So he was very kind to, or he had compassion for his enemies. And so he wasn't like off with their heads if they didn't go along with the program when he was around. However, when Charles Philippe became king and became Charles the 10th, well, he wasn't so cool with those quote unquote traitors, those dissidents. He wasn't having it. And so he came down hard on them, and he was like, yo, bring out that guillotine, get him out of here. And he was disliked for that, right? You can imagine. He was pressing a hard line, and so folks weren't with it. Well, to give you some indication of how folks weren't with it, even the National Guard, which was supposed to support Charles X or any king, he fell into disfavor with his own National Guard. And on April of 1827, while he was inspecting his guards, one of them insulted him. All right? And when you do that, or when he did that, he sent the National Guardsmen sent shockwaves throughout not only the National Guard, probably throughout, what was his kingdom. And King Charles X was like, yo, the people who are sworn to protect me are now against me. Or at least one man had the ability to stand up to me. He's like, oh man, that's not cool. I don't have control of my army. And so he was ready to go. He was like, oh man, I need to get out of my own country. And let's see. By the time, so that happened April 1827, when the National Guardsmen stood up to Charles X. And then 3 years later, you have the July Revolution, and some people gathered. But basically, pretty much right after July 31st. Yeah, it looks like, wow. My notes are there's so many things going on, so many things I wrote down. 1830, July Revolution, July 26th, the people gathered. And then the people began to riot, and they were chanting, down with the Bourbon. And Charles X was basically the Bourbon king, right? There was rioting in the streets, there was looting. And then July 28th, let me see, they barricaded the streets, tried to reconcile with the people. Yeah, by July 28th, the people, he tried to reconcile with the people wanted to reconcile, but Charles X said no. So he was already against it. He was putting his foot down, and his National Guard wasn't supporting him. The people were against him. It was just calamity and chaos in France. So on July 31st, initially he exiled himself in the Palace of Versailles. So that's where he went to hide out, right? At the Palace of Versailles. And then while he was there, the National Guard abandoned him. They were like, deuces, bro, you're on your own. That same day, it is said that he abdicated the throne. He gave up. He said, well, dang, the National Guard won't protect me. I can't fight my countrymen alone. He said, I'm done. I don't want to be the king anymore. He told him, he abdicated his throne, and then he had a few other relatives who were just like, they threw in the towel too. Like, man, I'm out. So then they were banished from France. Charles X, his family, whomever, they got a boat and they had to go. They had to leave France. And this time they went to, Great Britain or England, right? So they sailed away August 16th. They were like, man, we're out of here. It wasn't like he lived a pleasant life, because when he got to England, he was being harassed by the creditors. So for everything that he ever did, he was borrowing money. He was already in debt. And when it was clear he couldn't pay back that debt, those creditors still harassed him and still hounded him, even when he wasn't in France. He was in England. So he was running from his problems. And then he left England for Scotland. Things were getting too hot even in England, and he moved to Scotland. He stayed in Scotland until 1832, when Austria's king invited him to exile in Austria, like, come chill out over here, And then finally by 1836, he's dead. I think he died in Austria of cholera. And so that's Charles X right there. And So after watching all these videos and learning about Charles X's life, I mean, that's just a sliver, just a little bit of French history right there. And from all of the other people, their lives and the situations, everything, it was untenable. It was atrocious. It was horrific. People were losing their heads. Even the leaders of the rebellions, even though they thought they had the people's interest at heart, the people were turning against them and executing them. Robespierre, I think was his name, Robespierre. I don't know, all these French words. That's the other thing. French has such a great influence on English. We have so many words, borrowed from French. The French influence is so ensconced, embedded, it's imbued. It's all in English. So what can I say? Carpe diem. I hope this video is the creme de la creme, and the pièce de résistance is this part right now, or something like that. And watch out for les femmes fatales, fellas. Peace. And this video was inspired by 10-9, but I want to send a shout out to Big Impact for suggesting that I make a video about Charles X. And this is some wild stuff when you learn about history. And then in Crash Course, the dude said, I think it was William Faulkner, who said the past isn't the past. It isn't even, what is it? It isn't even, I don't know. I'll have to, something William Faulkner said. The past isn't even the past. It isn't even, it's not the future. It's not the present. It's not hardly the past. It's basically, he was saying the past is right now. So when you know the past, you know how to navigate right now, so to speak. Yeah. Anyhow, I did my best on this one. I'm gonna have to improve on making these historic videos, but that's the gist of it. So, peace.
Window seat surfing on the wing. As an adolescent, I dreamed of big things. Climb to the top of the mountain to see the scene. Petty whack, don't want me to have anything. I'm the captain, no jet lag. Boeing jet swag, floating to the sunset. Keep the drinks coming back. She summoned me, gave me turbulence on the sink. Pretty flight attendant boarding pass, I'm a buddy. Stunting first class, vegan meal yummy.